Hello and welcome to Unexplained Scotland. Recently I received a lot of messages asking about my lockdown skincare routine, so I thought today we'd just take 5, 10, maybe 15 or 20 minutes just going through it in really intricate detail. No, of course not. Today we are talking about ghosts, spirits, cryptids, spectres, tricks of the light, and a whole bunch of words and names I can't really pronounce. With that said, let's get into today's subject. The Grey Man of Ben Macdui. The Grey Man, or the Big Grey Man, or in Gaelic, Am Fear Liath Mòr. I'm sorry to every Gaelic speaking person I've just offended with that. Let's just call it the Grey Man. The Grey Man is a creature or entity said to live in Ben Macdui, which is a mountain in the Cairngorms in the Eastern Highlands. Sightings of the Grey Man are rare, but those that have seen it have described it as being over 10 feet tall, having long arms and legs, having an ape-like face and head, and being covered in a short grey hair or fur. Now, although sightings are rare, encounters are surprisingly common. This is because most people that have a run-in with the Grey Man never actually see it. The Grey Man is most often encountered by lone hikers near the summit of Ben Macdui when the mist starts to roll in. Those that do encounter him report feelings of being watched, hearing footsteps following behind them, and seeing shadows in the mist. Although stories of the Grey Man go back hundreds of years, the report that brought it to public attention happened in 1925. The encounter actually took place in 1891, but it took J. Norman Colley over 30 years to tell anyone. Colley, a veteran climber, had just reached the summit of Ben Macdui when the mist started to roll in. As Colley began his descent down the mountain, he heard footsteps behind him coming from in the fog. He was alarmed by this because he had seen no one else on his hike up. The stride sounded 3 or 4 times the length of his own strides. As the footsteps continued and got closer to him, Colley, who was normally a rational man, was gripped by fear and ran the rest of the descent. Upon reaching the bottom, Colley vowed never to climb Ben Macdui again alone. Although this encounter popularised the Grey Man, it was far from the first or the last encounter. In 1958, mountaineer Alexander Tunion described his own encounter. Add his name to the list of names I'm getting wrong. Tunion's encounter occurred in October 1943. Alexander claims that as he reached the peak of Ben Macdui, the mist rolled in. Almost instantly the atmosphere became dark and oppressive, and he heard footsteps coming from within the mist and fog. Shortly after that he saw a huge figure in the mist, and then it charged at him. Luckily he managed to draw his revolver,
and so I pull out my gun
and fired 3 shots into the charging figure. Luckily what he shot at was not a lost hiker. It didn't even slow the figure down, let alone stop it. Realising his bullets were going to be no good, he turned and fled down Ben Macdui in a time he claimed was a personal best, which seems like an unnecessary brag. Alexander was in no doubt that he had just encountered the famous Grey Man of Ben Macdui. The strange feelings, the sounds of footsteps, and the figure in the mist are all common occurrences in encounters with the Grey Man, and something many people have tried to debunk. So let's have a look at some theories. The strange feelings that seem to come before the sounds of the footsteps and seeing the figure in the fog have been put down to exhaustion and isolation. And while this might explain some encounters, it definitely doesn't explain them all. Alexander was on a 10-day hike when he had his encounter, not the type of man to be bothered by a bit of isolation. So while this certainly could account for some of the encounters with the less skilled climbers, the less seasoned ones, for the ones that have been doing it for a while, I don't think it really explains anything. Infrasound has also been used to explain the uneasy feelings people have felt. Infrasound is sound waves below the level of audibility. It can make the listener feel strange and anxious, and is usually connected with hauntings and paranormal encounters to try and get an explanation for them. Infrasound is a legitimate thing and could be the cause of some of the strange feelings on the mountain. The footsteps people have heard have been explained away as animal footsteps, and while there are certainly deer and wildcats on Ben Macdui, it doesn't explain the size of the stride. Something known as double footfall has been used to explain the sound of people being followed. This is a strange thing when a boot leaves an impression on the snow. It takes a few seconds for the snow beneath to collapse. This could create the effect of someone being followed, like there's footsteps, and also if it only happened every few steps, it would give the impression of giant strides. This could definitely account for some of the footsteps and being followed. This brings us to the figure in the mist. This one's interesting. It's been explained away as a phenomenon known as the Broken Spectre. I actually saw Broken Spectre open for Judas Priest. The broken spectre is a strange meteorological phenomenon that occurs when the sun hits an object at a certain angle and casts the shadow onto a wall of fog or mist. This creates the effect of a giant looming shadow that seems to be emerging from it. And there is a famous case of this actually happening on Ben Macdui. In 1791, the poet James Hogg was tending some sheep on Ben Macdui when suddenly he saw a huge figure in the fog. Terrified, he ran home until the next day. He gathered his nerve and went back up to get his sheep. When he went back up, he saw the same figure, but this time he realised the figure was wearing a hat similar to his own, and when he took his hat off, so did the figure. It was at this point he realised he was literally afraid of his own shadow. The idiot. Jesus. While these are all certainly interesting and even rational explanations, I don't think they can account for all of the encounters with the Grey Man. It seems unlikely that infrasound, double footfall, broken spectre could all occur at the same time to the same people, and so often it's been reported so many times. And it also doesn't explain the people that say the Grey Man have charged at them or attacked them. And what about the people that have actually seen the Grey Man, not just a silhouette through some mist? A friend of the author Richard Frere, who wishes to remain anonymous, reported seeing a large brown creature descending Ben Macdui. So let's have a look at some less scientific explanations for the Grey Man. Is he some sort of Yeti? Has a species similar to the Yeti or Bigfoot managed to survive on Ben Macdui for all these years? The lack of physical evidence makes it seem unlikely. Could it be a ghost? The ghost of a dead mountaineer trying to steer others away from a similar fate. It's interesting, but there's no evidence of anything like this actually happening on Ben Macdui, so again, it seems unlikely. Could the Grey Man literally be the manifestation of the spirit of the mountain, trying to tell people to leave to get off its domain? Some Buddhists believe that Ben Macdui is the home of a Bodhisattva. This is a perfected being that is here to watch humanity. This is pretty cool, but it doesn't explain why it would then have such an oppressive presence and try and scare people and chase them away if it's just here to observe. Okay, so here is my hot take on the Grey Man, Ben Macdui. I've got two hot takes on this one actually. I've got two theories that I think are both very reasonable and rational, but I'm going to need to ask you all to really open your minds and stick with me here. Theory 1. Yeti ghost. Could, in our distant past, some sort of Yeti-like creature have lived on Ben Macdui, died, and its spirit still haunts it? We hear about ghost cats, ghost dogs, even ghost trains. Why not a ghost Yeti? My second idea, and it's something you've heard me speak about before, Tulpa. Could the stories of a strange presence on Ben Macdui, combined with the scientific and rational explanations of the feelings of fear, the sounds of footsteps, and the sightings of strange figures in the mist, have combined in our collective psychic unconscious to create a now physical entity that stalks Ben Macdui to terrify those who go up, hiding in the mist among the boulders in the forests? I say yes. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This was a really fun one to look into and research. Ben Macdui, it still has these encounters today. People still report seeing the Grey Man going up, feeling strange, hearing footsteps, and even seeing sightings. Whether you believe it's the scientific explanation or a Yeti ghost, it's still a pretty interesting thing. If you enjoyed this video, check out our video on Edinburgh's tiny coffins for some more mysteries that are still unexplained to this day. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay spooky.